Welcome in. Today, we're heading back in time.
All the way back to the 17th century in Europe.
Exactly. We're going to explore the very foundation of the classical world, the Baroque Orchestra.
This is really where the whole idea of a modern orchestra was born.
Before this, it was all a bit random, wasn't it?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Musical groups were pretty informal, small, and, just assembled based on whoever was available with an instrument.
So what was the big shift?
Composers started to realize that if they wanted to write really complex, lasting music, they needed a permanent group.
A stable team.
A stable team of professionals who could play specific parts perfectly every single time.
And it's important to remember, when we say orchestra, we're not talking about 100 people on a stage.
Not at all. These were much, much smaller groups.
So who is paying for all this?
Well, these were professional musicians, so they were hired usually by wealthy nobles, princes, royalty.
The original patrons of the art.
Exactly. And the size of the group was totally flexible. It really depended on the patron's budget and, honestly, the size of the room they were playing in.
A palace drawing room versus a grand hall.
Right. But this was the start of professional musicianship as a tradition.
Okay, so let's break down the blueprint, starting with the core.
The undisputed core. The strings.
The string family was really the heartbeat of the Baroque orchestra.
Absolutely. They dominated the sound, they provided the fast melodies, the high parts, all the dramatic material.
And if you look at how it was structured, you can see the modern orchestra taking shape.
You really can. The violins, they carried the main tune, all the flashy passages.
And the violas.
Violas were crucial for the inner harmony, that middle ground. And then the cellos and double basses anchored everything with the low notes.
So it's the full range.
The full range. And here's a key detail. There were always way more violins than any other instrument.
And that was on purpose, right? It wasn't just an accident.
Oh, a very deliberate choice. It was to make sure that the main melody could slice right through everything else that was going on.
But the sound of these instruments was a whole different ballgame from what we hear today.
Completely different. Today, strings are made of metal. Back then, they used gut strings.
Duck strings, you mean?
Yep, made from animal intestines.
Okay, so how did that affect the music? What did it sound like?
It creates a much warmer, softer, more delicate tone.
Softer.
Yeah, and the sound decays really quickly. It was perfect for the kind of intimate settings they played in, like private palaces. The music didn't need to be huge and booming.
It was more of a personal experience.
Exactly. And since there was no conductor waving a baton,
Who was in charge?
the first violinist, they were the leader, guiding the tempo, making sure everyone was perfectly in sync, just with their bow or maybe nod of the head.
Incredible. So if the strings are the melody, what was holding it all together?
That brings us to the engine room.
The basso continuo.
The rhythmic and harmonic spine for, pretty much every piece of Baroque music ever written.
So what was it exactly?
It was usually a duo. You'd have a keyboard instrument, most often a harpsichord,
Right.
and that was paired with a low melodic instrument, maybe a cello or a bassoon.
And they'd play together?
Always. The cello or bassoon plays the actual bass line, note for note.
And the harpsichord.
A harpsichord adds the chords, the harmony on top of that line.
For anyone listening today, it might be helpful to think of it like the rhythm section in a modern band.
It's a good comparison. Like a bass guitar and a keyboard. It provides that steady beat and direction.
But it's almost more than that, isn't it? The sound of the continuo it's the signature sound of Baroque music.
It is. It drives the rhythm and the harmony at the same time.
What's really wild to me is how the harpsichord player knew what to play.
Right, because it wasn't always written out completely. Composers used a special shorthand.
Figured bass.
Figured bass, exactly. Little numbers written below the bass line.
And those numbers told the player which chords to build.
They told them the harmonic intervals, yeah. So they knew the structure of the chord, but not exactly how to play it.
So that leaves a lot of room for the performer to make choices.
It does. That was the point. They were expected to improvise, to realize the figured bass.
So every performance could be a little bit different.
A little bit different, fresh every night. It added this incredible richness and spontaneity to the music.
Let's talk about the harpsichord itself for a second, because it's so different from a piano.
Oh, completely. A piano hits the strings with a felt hammer.
But a harpsichord.
A harpsichord plucks the strings with a quill, a tiny little plectrum.
Which creates a huge challenge, right?
A major one. Because the plucking mechanism is fixed, you can't really change the volume of a single note by playing the key harder or softer.
So no gradual getting louder or softer, no crescendos.
Not on a single line of notes, no.
So how did they do it? How did they make things sound louder?
They had a couple of tricks. Some harpsichords had levers you could pull to engage a second set of strings, which made it instantly louder.
Ah, okay.
Or you just play more notes at once, thicker chords.
Yeah.
That increases the overall sound.
And the harpsichordist was often the one keeping everything together.
Very often, yes. They were kind of a co-leader with the first violinist,
Yeah.
setting the tempo with their playing.
And if they were playing in a massive space, like a church.
Then you'd often swap out the harpsichord for an organ.
Hmm.
You needed that power and sustained sound.
Okay, so we have the string heart and the continuo engine. What about the other instruments? The winds,
The woodwinds, they were like the special
the
guests.
color and texture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They weren't playing all the time like the strings. They came in to add contrast.
What were the common ones?
You had the recorder and the wooden flute for those light, airy sounds.
Right.
Oboes were super popular. Their sound is really bright and piercing, so it could get cut through the whole orchestra. You could always hear the oboe.
And bassoons.
Bassoons were essential. They often doubled the bass line of the continuo, adding this warm, reedy tone.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they'd get their own solos, too.
And technically, these were much simpler instruments than modern ones.
Far simpler. They were made of wood and had very few keys.
So they must have been really hard to play.
Unbelievably hard.
Yeah.
Players had to use these really complicated fingerings, called cross fingerings, just to play a basic scale. It took a ton of skill.
And then you have the big guns, the brass and percussion,
The special effects department,
right?
they were saved for the grand moments, things to do with royalty, big celebrations, military themes. You didn't hear them in every piece.
And the Baroque trumpet is a fascinating instrument, just a long tube of brass.
No valves at all.
So how do they change notes?
Purely with their lips. The player's embouchure had to be perfect. It was a high wire act.
That's incredible.
It's why the best trumpeters specialize in the super high register, the clear note register, where the notes are naturally closer together.
And what about horns?
Natural horns had a mellower sound, a bit rounder. You heard them a lot in music about hunting or outdoor scenes.
And for percussion, we're basically just talking about one thing.
Pretty much. Timpani, kettle drums,
And always in pairs.
always in pairs, and they were tuned.
To specific notes.
Yes, to the main notes of whatever key the piece was in, the tonic and the dominant. So they actually reinforced the harmony.
And because all these instruments were so loud, where did they sit?
Way in the back. Always in the back. And saved for those huge, exciting climaxes.
So we've built the orchestra. Let's talk about how it was managed. You mentioned no conductor on a podium.
Right, that idea just hadn't been invented yet.
So who is in charge? Who kept everyone together?
It was a shared leadership, distributed.
Between the violinist and the harpsichordist?
Exactly. The first violinist would use their bow or, just their body language to cue everyone. And the harpsichordist kept that steady pulse going with the continuo. It was very collaborative.
I've heard stories about leaders stomping on the floor to keep time.
Oh, yeah. Or hitting a big staff on the floor. And the audience could often hear it.
Wow.
It meant every single musician had to be totally tuned in to everyone else.
That sense of collaboration also dictated how they handled volume.
It did. We call it terrace dynamics.
Terrace dynamics, like steps.
Exactly. Think of it like a light switch. The music is either on loud or it's off soft. There was no dimmer switch.
So the idea of slowly getting louder or gradually fading out?
The crescendo and diminuendo, that really wasn't a thing yet.
How did that work in practice?
To get louder, the composer just wrote for more instruments to start playing all at once.
And to get softer.
A bunch of instruments would just drop out simultaneously. It created this really dramatic, sudden contrast that people loved.
And this idea of different groups of instruments playing against each other is perfectly captured in the Concerto Grosso.
The Concerto Grosso is key to understanding the whole texture of the music.
What's the setup?
You have a small group of amazing soloists. That's the concertino. And they play in contrast to the full orchestra, which is the ripieno.
So it's like a conversation.
A musical dialogue, exactly. The soloists get to show off their skills, and then the full orchestra answers back. It's this constant back and forth.
So cool. Okay, let's talk about where they actually performed.
Right, because that had a huge impact on the sound. We're not talking about modern concert halls.
Yeah.
They played in palaces, private drawing rooms, big cathedrals.
And the acoustics must have been wildly different.
Totally. A stone cathedral has tons of echo, so you have to play slower, more clearly, or it all turns to mud.
But in a smaller room with wood panels.
The sound is absorbed. You can play faster, more intricate music.
And the audience was right there.
Right on top of the musicians,
Okay.
often. was a much more direct,
I,
personal experience.
this all sounds great, but I can imagine one huge logistical nightmare.
Go on.
Tuning.
Oh, it was the Wild West.
There was no standard pitch.
None. Zero international standard. Every city, sometimes every royal court, had its own tuning. An instrument from London might sound totally out of tune next to one from Paris.
How did musicians even deal with that?
With a lot of skill.
Yeah.
Generally, though, instruments were tuned lower than they are today.
Why was that?
It reduced the tension on those fragile gut strings,
Yeah.
which gave the music that more relaxed, mellow sound we were talking about.
But the gut strings themselves were a problem, weren't they?
Oh, they were so volatile. The slightest change in temperature or humidity could throw them out of tune.
So players had to be constantly adjusting their instruments.
Constantly, sometimes even in the middle of a concert, between movements. It's a level of professionalism that's just mind-boggling.
So when you put all these pieces together, what's the big takeaway? The legacy.
I mean, you're looking at the complete blueprint for the symphony orchestra we have today.
All the basics were set then.
The dominance of the strings, that constant basso continua foundation, the careful use of winds and brass for color, it's all there.
Yes.
The idea of specialized sections, the rules of harmony, how you orchestrate a piece, that's the language we still use.
It's the foundation of everything.
It really is. And understanding all these original details, the small rooms, the tuning issues, the improvisation, it really helps you appreciate just how complex and organized the world of classical music became, starting from these, relatively small groups.
So the next time you hear a Baroque piece, listen for those sudden shifts from loud to soft.
The terrace dynamics.
And really listen for that harpsichord plucking away, holding it all together.
The engine room.
Good luck with your studies.